achieved.
All right, everybody, welcome to Studio Day Heffrey. It is a beautiful, beautiful whatever day of the week it is. I want to talk about Jamal Adams today. Jamal Adams is the topic of our conversation, and I know that it's cold outside, and I'm wearing a hat that might be a warm weather hat, but it's the one that was in Studio Day Heffrey when I started to record, so I popped it on my head. I want to talk about Jamal Adams in a couple of different ways. Number one, what does them chasing Jamal Adams tell us about the Cowboys? Because it makes it a little bit confusing to me. Look back at the Cowboys' history on how much they care about safety. How much are they pursuing and trying to go get a safety, especially a strong safety? Because if you look back at their history, it's been since Roy Williams that they used a pick that early. So it's been 17 years. 2002 is when they took Roy Williams to play safety for this team in the first round. Since then, they haven't used a 1 or a 2 on a safety at all. I guess J.J. Wilcox was a 3. Thank goodness for Xavier Woods. Like they haven't been chasing safety at all. But Jamal Adams is on the market, and all of a sudden we're starting at a first-round pick, and that's no problem, right? That Jamal Adams is awesome. I'll give up a first-round pick in a heartbeat. A 1 and 2 2s like they seem to be asking, I'm probably out on that. I'm probably proud of the Cowboys for not doing that. But a couple of things here. And we will talk about how the Jamal Adams dream, that's not dead at all. It's not dead. It's probably more alive than it was just before the trade deadline. We'll get into that in a minute. But first, we got to talk about the Cowboys drafting, because the Cowboys are, and I'll stand by this, in the Will McClay era, the Dallas Cowboys are one of the best drafting and developing and talent acquisition teams in the NFL. But the last few years, let's start with the Taco pick, Taco Charlton. Why did they pick Taco? Well, they told us going into that draft, they knew they were going to take a pass rusher, and then they were going to take a couple of cornerbacks. That's awful. You can't do that. You can know your team needs, and yes, your team needs are going to some extent, reflect who you're going to pick. But you can't lock in on, well, yeah, we're going to take a defensive end at 28, and whichever one's there, and then it's Taco Charlton, who, if you watched us in the lead up to the draft or were listening when they picked him, it was like, that's not a first-round player. It's not. If you don't watch the tape and you don't do the work, then maybe you can't judge them for missing on a pick. But we were all over it. That was a bad pick. It was a bad pick when they made it. Cheeto and Jordan Lewis, they were going to go corner, and those have worked out okay. I got no problem with that. I especially had no problem with the Jordan Lewis pick. I thought that he was a really good player. But then we go to 2019. Keeping in mind that the Cowboys were ready to fork over a first-round pick and maybe a player, maybe another pick for Jamal Adams, strong safety. You got to pick 58, and why, if you listen to The Fan and if you listen to the draft show, you listen to myself, KT, Broadus, Brugler, we were talking about Tristan Hill way before they got on the clock because they'd made it pretty clear that's the position we care about, that's a guy we like, they spent a lot of time with him pre-draft, Tristan Hill is going to be the guy. When they were on the clock, we're sitting there going back and forth. Hey, Taylor Rapp, Washington, who's playing for the Rams right now and playing well. Hey, Juan Thornhill, who's starting for the Chiefs right now. You had safeties on the board that could plug this hole. Taylor Rapp, more of a down safety. Thornhill, probably more of a free safety, but Xavier Woods is versatile, can play either way. You had this available with a second-round pick. You had a step-in guy ready to go, but instead you were so zeroed in on trying to find the next 3 technique to take Malik Collins' job when his contract's up that you left the best players on the board. I don't have their board in front of me, but having watched all those guys, I couldn't imagine that they would have Tristan Hill ahead of either Taylor Rapp or Juan Thornhill. I couldn't imagine it. So they didn't take the best player. Much like with Taco Charlton, they didn't take the best player. They took what they were planning to take on position. There's a line here. Need matters when it comes to the NFL draft. What you need is always going to factor in. The Cowboys in the first round next year, they're not taking a quarterback. They're not going to do it. You're good there. It's just, it wouldn't make sense. But you're not going to just go to one position. Well, the one we need the most, and then just skip over 10, 15, 20 players and say, well, that was the position that we wanted to get. That's how you build a bad roster. And the Cowboys have, for the most part, avoided that sort of stuff. But recently, it's popped up, and it's concerning. You could already had your safety, and you decided a second-round pick? Nah, it's not worth a second-round pick. It hadn't been worth a second-round pick for us in 15 years. So we're not going to do that. We don't value strong safety that way. But now you do. Once somebody else picked one, and he's really, really good, suddenly it's like, oh, yeah, it's worth a first-round pick and then some. Why wasn't it worth a second-round pick? They were staring you in the face. You had those players available. So Jamal Adams, he doesn't have to be the Cowboys' answer. But I do believe the dream is alive. Because right now, Jamal Adams is furious at his head coach. He's furious at his GM. How dare you take phone calls on me? And I don't think the Cowboys were even the team that made the best offer for him. May have been the Ravens, may have been a mystery team, but other teams were interested. But now you know that his team has pissed him off. He's mad. He's still going to be a great player. He's still going to give you everything he's got, but he wants to come home. He acknowledged it out loud that, yeah, Dallas is one of the teams that I'd love to go to. So I don't think that dream is dead. I think you get to the offseason. Now, then I got to watch these draft players and see if we're going to find a guy without having to give up a ton. But the Jamal Adams dream isn't dead, and I hope it signifies a shift for them in acknowledging that, hey, even the positions that aren't super valuable, they all matter. If you could get a good, strong safety, that helps. Having Cam Chancellor on your team for the Seahawks, that helps. If there's a guy available, pick him. Stop zeroing in on a single position or a single player going into the draft and be ready to pick the best player because they were there for you in the second round. You said no thanks. You picked a player who's going to turn out to be a bust. It's a little early to say that. I'm sorry, Tristan. I hope you're not a bust. But so far, he can't play in the NFL. And that's what happens when you don't draft properly. Get it right, Cowboys. That's it for today in Studio Day Heffrey. I appreciate everybody checking this thing out. And you guys have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Don't forget to be tuned in to 105.3 The Fan all day, okay? Peace.